Hello lovelies. Today I'm going to do my best to take you through the basics of Necromolds and give you an actual review. If you want to see the unboxing, that is elsewhere on this channel. Necromolds is a kind of introductory war game with some cool, unique selling points to it. Chiefly that the figures are made from play-doh and are pressed out in these cool little spellbook things, and then when you beat one, you squish it with a special like signet ring to mark it that you've captured that thing or killed that thing or whatever. It's got a whole bunch of lore to it. Basically, you're playing one of these masters of the Necromolds, going to war with one another using these creations, these golems made out of spell clay, which is play-doh of different colours, and there are many different colours, and this is basically your equivalent of your army build points. You can only use as much clay as you have in the pot. Now unfortunately these are non-standard amounts of play-doh, so and you can't buy them independently yet, though that's coming. So if you are going to use a non-standard clay, then you're going to want to make sure everyone's playing with pots of the same size, just to keep things fair, or you're going to have to weigh and measure out however much you're using. But that's a minor fly in the ointment. It does use novelty dice, but you can't really begrudge it on that too much because it's a board game, so everything is there, all inclusive. These spellbooks not only create the monsters, but they're used to track their stats and stuff during the game. There are also cards, so if you want to play against someone else and both use the same monster but don't have the same spellbooks, then you can have a card and you can use that to reference during play. Alright, be prepared for lots of jump cuts as I kind of go through all of this. There's a couple of different ways to play. The basic game, the advanced game, and then there's an expanded game from some of the additional supplementary material. But the basic game goes as follows. You put your battle map down, you distribute your gems, you take your command dice, your combat dice, measuring tool. This one doubles as a sort of goo sculptor, but there are cardboard measuring tools in the main box. You have your special magic ring for squishing the figures, and you got your clay. So you mold your army from whatever Necromolds are available, and then you get to playing. So whoever has the smallest army gets to go first. But at the start of play, you roll your command dice, and this determines what you can do each turn. So that's 2 magic actions and 2 movement actions. Alright, so that tells you what you can do during your turn. You then take turns, so again, starting with the smallest army. If you're tied, then the youngest player goes first, or you can roll dice to determine who goes first. And then you take turns to do a thing. So this is on the basic game. And then you keep taking your turns until all your command dice have been used and removed. So with move, I can move any 2 monsters using the full length of the distance tool. If a monster ends its move in contact with an enemy monster, immediately resolve melee combat. So I could move that monster into contact with that one, and then you go to resolving combat. So in combat, the attacking player starts with 4 dice, while the defending player starts with 2 dice. Player with the larger monster adds 1 extra die to their die pool. Well, clearly the purple one is larger, so they get an extra one. You can spend gems to add extra dice, so that's from your dice pool, from your gems. The attacking player decides first. Then once you're done with all that, you roll your dice pools. So each star symbol counts as a point of damage, basically. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. The defending player got 2 of those. Oh, where's it gone? I knocked it over. Let's assume it's that one. Alright, so got 2. So then you compare. The player with the most hit symbols wins the combat, and the enemy monster gets smashed. When tied, both monsters get smashed. So that's it, basically. Ranged combat is a little different. Some monsters have ranged combat effects, and then you roll 2 dice, but you know, it's only if you beat the person defending that you kill them. You get gems for gem symbols that come up on the dice, like that one. So you can replenish gems that way. And you get to smash the monsters. I won't do that just yet, even though it's really, really satisfying, by smushing the ring down on the figure, which is, you know, joyful, and that's part of the joy of winning, I guess. And then in the basic game, you return the smashed monsters to the clay containers. And once you've wiped out all the enemy monsters, that's the end of play. So that is the basic game. Very, very basic. Some things are left a little bit up to judgment, which might be an issue with younger players, but I presume adults playing with younger players are going to be able to be somewhat forgiving. And you might want to compensate the younger players for losing their characters by letting them squish them, you know, which is a little bit of joy there. In the basic game, you just discard magic dice in exchange for gems when you roll them, so that's something else. And basically the molds themselves barely come into it. You know, you have a slight advantage for having bigger critters, but less so in the advanced game, where the statistics become much more important. So the intermediate rules are a bit of a jump from the basic rules, quite a bit of a jump, I would say. I'm possibly underestimating kids, but I reckon that for the intermediate level and advanced levels of play, you're probably looking at 10 and up. I don't know. I played role-playing games, including Rollmaster, from about the age of 8 or 9, but I don't think I'm typical. But then again, kids have complicated computer games with detailed subsystems and so on now, so maybe things are a bit different and they're more capable than I thought. But hey, so for the intermediate game, the structure of play is basically the same. It's just the complexity and intricacy of the rules is a little different. So instead of just letting the younger player go first, it's whoever has the biggest army goes last, or if you have the same number of figures, you roll dice, and whoever rolls the most hits, the little star symbols, goes first. Then you roll your command dice, same as before. You have 4 of those, and then you assign them, and they go onto the molds on your side as per usual, but they activate actions on the cards. So those are the options that you have. You've got move, ranged attack, and magic. So you can activate magical abilities to bring them online for that character, and they count through the whole turn, and they modify your other things, or it might be a magical attack or otherwise. It really depends on the ability. And then you have the other things, which might be 1 dice or 2 dice. So you can end up spending all of your dice on a single mold, but that affects every creature of that type on the board as you head into battle. So if you have a lot of the same creature, that can be quite effective, because you can act with all of them by activating one of them, but you do get penalized for only having a limited variety of types on the board. You get one less command dice if you only have one type of creature on the board, so you become less capable of doing things. Measurements also become a bit more complicated in the intermediate game. So you have short distance, medium distance, and long distance, which are determined on the cards by a number of upward arrows pointed. I find some of the symbols a little bit hard to read, sometimes a little bit too distinct. They're very small. It may just be my fading eyesight and incipient cataract, but it is also possibly an artifact of the printing process. It could do, as I find with most things these days, with being a little bit higher contrast, a little bit more bold in its colouring. I know that seems weird looking at it here, where everything seems to be bright colours and so on, but on the cards there's a little bit of dimness and muddiness, and that is a bit of a shame. But yeah, you're more things than the mere size of your character now counts. And if you do dispute over the size of the characters, it does tell you how much clay is used in each, so you can reference that if you need to decide whether one's bigger than the other. So the green one here has a size rating of 15, the purple one here has a size rating of 16, referring to how much clay is used to mould each one. So if you get into dispute, you've got that. We're now also using the skills and the types that these things have. So the Petripod is a Maniac, and the Fungin, or Fungix, sorry, is a Forsaken. And they have skills, so melee, ranged, defense. Those are the things to be on top of. You can spend crystals, gems, the same way as you could before, score them in a similar way, and so on. Alright, so once you've determined who's going first, and let's just say it's the purple guy, alright, then you can perform your actions same as before. So you activate them by activating the dice. So we're activating our ranged attack. It has 3 arrows next to it, which means it's long range, and it also includes a move of short range on part of it. So, well, let's move then shoot. So move and then shoot. Shooting gives us a single die, and there's no other things around to support it. Different types can get support from other characters on their support skill, and the support skills are highlighted in blue. So if the Petripod had some other creatures, different creatures, not other Petripods, around it, then it could be supported by them, and you could re-roll some of your attack dice depending how many were around. So that gives you a little bit of an advantage to moving in groups and so on, but it's not an overwhelming advantage. But anyway, we're making a ranged attack, so we get 1 dice. We score 2 shields, which is nothing on attack because you need stars, so he doesn't even need to roll. So we unleash our ranged attack, whatever it is, a bunch of spores or something, maybe, but it does nothing. Alright, then the other side takes a go. Let's say some other green figures off board, off visual board, have taken their move. And then it's back to our turn again. Well, we can move again, albeit a short distance, but that's enough to take us into melee, which means we now resolve the melee. The Fungix has 4 dice in melee. We could spend gems to increase the number of dice, and so on. If it was a character that was allowed support and melee was a support skill, we could add other critters into that to help defend it. But as things stand, alright, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attack points. Now, this creature, the Petripod, has a defense of 2, so it only gets to roll 2 dice, and it counts shields. Okay, we got 2 shields and a gem, so we get a gem back at least. And then you compare. So 4 versus 2, clearly the Fungix wins, and the other guy gets splatted. In melee combat, however, if you score more successes than your opponent, so say we got, what, 4 shields, and they only got 3 attack points, then they would lose and they would be squished. And once that's resolved, you get a bunch of gems back. So you collect a gem for every gem symbol showing on your combat results. So we had 1 previously. And then if your monster was smashed, you get a gem back for each combat die in your final dice pool. So if you rolled 4 combat dice and your monster was smashed, you would get 4 combat dice. You would get 4 gems back. So it's worth spending gems a lot of the time. The way the economy works, it's worth being aggressive, I would say, which helps create a faster, more active, more engaging game for a lot of players, I would think. Now, the advanced play rules incorporate some of the options that I've talked about. So the weakening command basis. So if you use monsters only from 1 spellbook, you only have 3 command dice. And during the game, if you're reduced to only 1 spellbook, similarly, you're reduced to 3 dice. So it's worthwhile having a diversity of creatures and plenty of them, rather than just fixating on 1 super powerful character and hoping for the best during that. There is an option in the advanced play to re-roll command dice, so you can discard 1 to re-roll another one, or discard 2 to change the dice to whatever you want. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility in exchange for losing maneuverability and so on. You can also invoke Gem Rage, collecting any of your dice that came up gems and re-rolling them, but you have to spend 1 gem for each of those. So that's another option there. The support skills is really part of the advanced rules, but I did mention them before. But basically, if something's highlighted in blue, as it is here for melee combat on the Tetrapod, then friendly monsters in close distance, so the shortest distance, that share a support skill can help each other in combat. So that gives you the re-rolls that we're talking about, but both characters have to have that, and they can't be the exact same type. Hope I explained that well enough. There are also rules for solo play, so you can play against a sort of automated rule set, which is lovely. So it's got its bases covered. It can be played at a basic, intermediate, or advanced level. So you could play with younger kids, tweens, but there's also enough there, I think, to satisfy adults. But I think there will also tend to be some arguments. I don't think you can escape arguments in these games, but the ranging is a little imprecise, even though you've got this tool for it. I can see arguments developing around that. And the gem economy definitely encourages spending gems reasonably freely to make things work for you. And you get them back fairly rapidly. So I'm not entirely convinced that the gem economy works, but we'll have to see. The Call to Arms expansion introduces all kinds of further complications, such as you can now have 3 or more players. You have champion dice, which are rolled to invoke special capabilities from champions, who are specially designated creatures. You get things representing banners that show which one's your champion, and artifacts, which show special weapons and things, and you just kind of press those into your creature to show who is carrying what. You also get special cards for the different casters. so representing you as the player rather than things on the board, and these give you different special abilities that you can invoke from your power that you gain and lose in various ways. You also get little markers for rerolls that your champion can use, and other special capabilities. So yeah, and you get a nice little info thing on the reverse about the character that you've chosen. So besides the champion stuff and that, so you get artifact cards with the artifact powers, and it just what I would say this expansion really does is that it creates factions where factions didn't necessarily exist per se beforehand. So you can, through the rules here and through your choices and so on, you can now play as if you're a particular side, and you can even do sort of campaign play if you wish. And it now has objective markers. So if you want to play something more complicated than just wailing the shit out of each other, which is fun enough, don't get me wrong, you can. And there's some new terrain, some other options as well. But you know, this is definitely complicated and makes things more complicated over and above the advanced level of play. So I would recommend playing a game at each level and seeing if you enjoy it at each level. But this certainly turns it into a more teen-friendly level of complexity over the kind of tween level of complexity that I would say the base game at the advanced level is. So all that really remains for me to do then is to demonstrate squishing. There. Now he's dead. So, an actual review then. I don't think I gave it scores on the unboxing when I did it. Yeah, I went a little crazy buying this back when I had money. And I'm glad I did, because it really does seem to be a lot of fun, and I think it would really appeal to certain kids. And you know, as a gamer parent or a gamer uncle or someone who wanted to introduce kids to the wargaming hobby, I think this is a brilliant, absolutely brilliant entry product. And it has a sort of weird 1990s Nickelodeon / Rob Zombie aesthetic to it, which I also dig quite a lot for various and obvious reasons. I might do a bigger demonstration of play for you, but obviously I'm working with limited space here on the desktop. But in terms of style then, I would give this game a 5 out of 5 for style. It just oozes style. It's colourful. It's fun. There is lore behind it all, if you care to check into the lore behind it all. You know, there's a lot to recommend this, and for its interest for it to pique people's interest beyond kind of children's board games and things. I think there's enough here to satisfy adults. I'm certainly digging it a lot and enjoying it. You know, even if I'm just playing it against myself. But like I say, I might do a bigger demonstration of play there. But yeah, style 5. In terms of substance, it's a kid's game, but there is still a lot there. The advanced rules and certainly the Call to Arms expansion rules certainly bring it up to a level of tactical satisfaction and meaningful rules choices and so on, that make it worthwhile for older players as well. I have some concerns about some of the rules, but I think I'm unlikely to be playing this in tournament play or anything where that really matters. I think it's just a good fun game where you get to squish things, and as such, there's a lot to recommend it. So in terms of substance, then I'm going to give it a 4. So that gives Necromolds a 9 out of 10 from me. That's 4.5 out of 5. Heartily recommended. Hard and expensive to get here in the EU at the moment, but I'm assured that it will be coming to the EU and the UK soon enough, in an easier, more accessible form, and it's a lot easier to get in the States. If you've got kids, nieces and nephews, whatever, or you run a game club that includes younger kids, or younger kids are staring in envy at maybe their older brother's Warhammer collection, yeah, this is a shoo-in. I hope to be able to talk to the creator soon, either here or on T-Shirted Historian's channel. They did kind of tentatively agree, but that was a while back before I got distracted by a whole bunch of other stuff. But I would love to talk to them. But anyway, there you go, Necromolds. Highly recommended by me to you. Zang.
Hi, I'm Skip Breakfast, and you're watching Newsload. We're getting reports of a new card game which purports to make fun of the political and social hellscape in which we find ourselves, somehow turning this into a fun pastime for groups of slightly drunken friends to try and outdo each other. But there's one important question on everyone's lips: just how exactly do you play?